Let's talk about the Blair Witch Project. This was a monster hit, and actually started the found footage genre. Now what made the movie work is the fact that number one, the acting was top notch. You believed the people were in a terrible situation. But number two was the premise, which was incredibly simple. Kids get lost in the woods, and are terrified to the end. So of course a year later we got this piece of shit.
Silence!
God damn it, Snape. Harry Potter month doesn't start until next week. Well, unless you're here to defend the movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I thought. To get started, we're talking about Blair Witch 2. It feels like that they took a horror script, slapped the words Blair Witch 2 on it, and pushed it into theaters. It has none of the heart, none of the style, and frankly nothing that made the original good. On that note, let's dive in.
So it's a fictionalized event based on a real-life event that was always a fictionalized event. I have a headache just from reading the credits.
Now let's start with the title, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Why the fuck is it called Book of Shadows? There's something in this movie called the Book of Shadows. There's no books of any kind of magical relation. You might think this is nitpicking, but I would argue it's the fucking title of the movie. Now we begin with a recap of the first film, through media footage of how great it was. This raises our expectations, and that's a big mistake. Anyway, we then see interviews with town folks, and this part does give you hope that they might recapture a little bit of the magic. These people do feel like the same people we saw at the beginning of the first film. And they do give a performance that would be what you'd expect from people who are pissed off to see their town taken over by what essentially was a movie gimmick. They do a great job, and frankly, these are some of the best actors you'll see in the entire movie. Really. Then we jump back a year to this. Fuck, Monty Python had more believable doctors in this shit. Shock Therapy had more believable doctors in this shit. And the weird part about that is this scene is never referenced again. They never talk about it, it's not important to the plot. It's just there because it's weird. It's almost like the director was running out of ideas of things to be weird, so he came up with this shit off the top of his head. It has no purpose to the plot, has no purpose to the film. It's just weird ass shit because weird ass shit. Then after we see the kid get his Shatner badge, we jump time 2 more times. Fuck, Frank Miller doesn't time jump this much. We're only a couple minutes in and we've jumped time 4 different times.
Again? So we jump 1 year ahead from 1 year earlier, plus 1 season ahead, though it's 1 year earlier from when the movie was released. Pay attention, there's a fucking quiz later!
Now it's time we meet our victims, cast members. And they literally introduce them over a fucking microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Stephen Ryan Parker. Apparently, he's here researching a book with his girlfriend.
Blair Witch, history or hysteria?
We've always been misunderstood.
Glad to see skipping Writing 101 didn't stop this asshat from selling a screenplay. Pray for the apocalypse, people. We have over another hour of this shit. Now, as if the cliche men here hadn't already gone over 9,000, we then meet our last cast member, and yes, they're going for the graveyard. Wow. Meet the golf chick. She has a name, but you're only going to call her the golf chick through this movie. And I'm not even all that surprised. Pretty much every horror movie in the 90s had one of these characters. Then they decide to offend most of Virginia during a getting shit to camp out montage. Keep it up, fuckers. Then finally we get to the woods, and it's about time. I want to watch these fuckers burn.
Damn. You're really running bullshit central here, aren't you?
You know, the golf chick seems to have this movie pretty well summed up. Then, get a load of this fuck.
Communing with Ellie Kedward.
The Blair Witch? I thought you embraced nature, not evil.
No, you don't understand. Ellie was a good witch.
Lady, I know you were paid to say this line, but you do realize that the myth of the Blair Witch was based on an actual person. An actual person that really tortured a shitload of little kids to death. From there we jump right to the night party. Fuck it, I'm gonna assume this is how the movie was written. On top of that, the cameraman apparently has an ant nest up his ass because the camera will not fucking stay still.
Okay, this whole Blair Witch thing set us back 300 years. It's like we're back in the burning times. It just totally fucked up our image.
Not to keep harping on this character, because I don't really hold it against the actress, it's the writing, but again, anyone in today's world trying to compare themselves to people who were actually strapped to piles of wood and burned to ash, that's pretty fucked up. Fuck this character. Then we meet the rest of the victims as we see another tour group is going on at the same time this one is.
Check it out! Fergusville's funniest home video!
Twister did it?
Group, the Blair Witch Walk, what's your excuse?
Tour group, the Blair Witch Hunt!
Hey, what'd you think? I wanted to find out about
what the hell you talking about?
Dorothy.
Oh, I get it.
Jetzt hör mir mal gut zu. Ich bin nicht extra aus Berlin gekommen, um ein paar Bäume.
Okay, stop. Are we really gonna buy this chick came to Berlin to see the Blair Witch? More than that, she even makes a statement she didn't come here to see trees. So this is a chick who's come from Berlin with the express idea of doing battle with the Blair Witch. I now officially want this movie to be about that. But no, we never see them again. Well, we do for like half a scene, but we'll get to it. The next morning we find all the Arthur's work shredded, and for some reason it's snowing out of them. But why are they all shocked they blacked out? That's what happens when you go to the woods and get fucked up. That's actually kind of the point. Oh, I have to mention here, I forgot it earlier, the goth chick, when they get to the woods, suddenly becomes psychic. Her first notion is she notices the wife of the author is also pregnant.
So how far along are you? What do you mean? The baby. How many weeks? 6. How'd you know? I don't know.
She hasn't told anyone, so that's our clue that the goth is psychic. She now has another moment where she finds where the missing tapes are from the night before.
At least the tapes are still here.
Jesus Christ.
How did you know?
I don't know.
Did you put them in there? Did you?
Jeff, are they your tapes?
Yeah, Erica, they're my tape!
And oh my god, the ham levels are reaching Stephen King levels, people. In fact, he's even approaching Nicolas Cage by the end. Now, add to that the author's wife having a miscarriage and we go to the hospital. Now, I'll be honest, this entire portion of the movie could have been cut and you would have lost nothing except a very disturbed image of a woman who's losing her baby, yet not at all being given the chance to act that out. We see her nightmare fuel, which I'll admit does earn some creepy points, and on top of that, this is where you start to notice that the camera work in this movie, not just the shaky cam, but just the way it edits is, well, Doug, you want to take this?
How is it the editing and camera work is actually worse than the other movie? I mean, that was 3 kids with a camcorder. They had an excuse. This is a movie. An actual movie. And yet they're terrified for some reason to hold on the same image for more than 4 seconds. The movie's not gonna eat you if you hold that extra 5.
And back to the woods we go. We come up to Jeff's house, which we find out he actually bought for $1. This is a Civil War factory. Now, I'm not going to get into the fact that there's no fucking way a historical society would let a Civil War factory go for $1. We're just going to let that pass. We get inside and find out, basically, it's a merchandising clue for the entire franchise.
You're walking into the official Blair store. Okay, we got par, ruin, foundation, dirt. That's a big item.
Spaceballs did it?
Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
And we see another piss poor transition, and then this.
Come on, take them!
You're not making a believer out of me, son.
It was an accident. I swear to Christ.
So now we're back in the present, which is the past, which is the present of the future. Ah, fuck it. And then we get this bizarre scene, which I can only assume the actor paid the director to let him make out with the hot chick.
How does that feel?
Because afterwards, again, much like the doctor scene, this scene is never mentioned or brought up again. You figured out, people, the movie ain't gonna help you. Now at this point, the golf girl goes back into town to go to the store, and we find out that apparently this is the store that time forgot, as literally every character who was in the store at least a day ago is now not only back in the store, but in the exact same positions. You know, there's living in a rut, and then there's clearly using the same set twice. You couldn't have at least had the actors change positions? Meanwhile, Witch Chick starts to have a freak out about the missing time from the night before. This could have been an interesting character moment, I'll admit, but they take it and do this.
Persephone, I invoke. By earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I invoke. By earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I invoke.
You serious?
Now, I can't explain why Jeff is so creepily watching her through his camera. And more importantly, where's the fucking witch? Seriously, we have dropped that plot line. It could just as well be magic voodoo here. The Blair Witch is not in this movie. It's not mentioned in the movie hardly ever. And when it is mentioned, it's mostly talking about Jeff's merchandise, not the actual creature itself. It's like they've forgotten the entire purpose of the fucking movie. Now, the next morning when Jeff awakens, he finds that his van is completely trashed. The goth girl told him that she had a bit of a fender bender on the way home. However, it looks like this. Are we really stupid enough to believe that he thinks she did this to his car and then somehow drove it back? Buddy, get a fucking clue. Now, at this moment, they all begin to realize they have bizarre scarring that they really can't explain. This could have been, again, an interesting character moment. We immediately jump to looking for the witch chick, who they now all believe had something to do with it. They don't find her, but an owl crashes through the window, and that apparently makes them decide to stop looking for her. It's right back to weed and chicken. We didn't see the witch chick come back, and let me just sidebar here. Why is it when she's possessed, she's always naked or close to it? I mean, is the possessor just really fond of the motley?
You know who it is.
What?
And you know what you have to do.
We then find out that poor witch girl is dead. That's right, one of the only deaths in the movie, and it occurs off screen. At this point, the goth chick believes she figured out how to watch the footage of what really happened the night before. They play it backwards, which somehow plays it forwards. And yes, this still explains the process of writing this shit. Seriously, when did the Blair Witch become MTV Woodhouse? Now, they see themselves apparently having an orgy. Blair Witch did it?
I got Lori's top! I got Lori's top!
And on the tape, they see that the author's wife is conducting them, as it were. Now, you could just assume we were all fucked up and we did weird shit, which is what any normal group of people in this situation would do. Instead, they decide the author's wife must be a witch, controlling them, as evidenced by the video. You know, as I watch this, I have to ask myself, why am I so bored by two chicks who are about to fight? How do you fuck that up? The author's wife then goes to prove that putting a noose around your neck, walking to a ledge, and talking shit does not ever end well.
You have no balls. You can't do it, can you? You can't do it.
No!
When she dies, they suddenly get their memories back and remember everything they did during the blackout, not just what's on the tape. And at this point, the editing just completely shits the bed. It looks like a 9-inch nail video directed by fucking Pumpkinhead. Then we get our first real look at what I can only describe as Yosemite Sam if he weren't a cartoon, in the shape of this cop who's been listening to their story the entire time. Now, the twist of the movie is when they play the tape, they see things completely different than the way the movie presented it. And what a twist it is indeed. And then the credits roll, that's it.
Somebody fucked with this tape! Somebody fucked with that tape! That tape is wrong! I swear to Christ!
Good God, this movie is shit. Oh, fuck you, Joe. Now you might say, oh, this leads to a lot of questions. And yes, it does. But most plot hole-ridden movies do. Doesn't mean it's clever writing. A clever story, example Pulp Fiction, does leave you with questions, but there are enough clues along the way for you to be able to at least have a theory of what is happening. At this point, they literally give you no basis on whether or not the tape is correct, the tape has been magically altered, if they were magically fucked up and don't remember doing these things, or any of the above. This movie is an absolute joke. It has nothing to do with the Blair Witch other than the name. Otherwise, it could be any other kids in a cabin in the woods being tortured by evil things. I would highly advise you check out either Evil Dead or Cabin in the Woods. They both handle the exact same idea and do it a fuckload better. This has nothing to do with the Blair Witch, or even the myth that it spawned from. It has nothing to do with the first film. It has plot holes you can drive a fucking truck through. And it has acting John Travolta would mock. and a soundtrack from the mind of what the fuck. Overall, this movie is terrible. Absolutely horrible, and I hope that this video is your only experience of it. Until next time, my name is Vega Goose saying thank you very much, and I'll see you around.